Welcome to the Matt Largent concert.
Because if you're going to screw it up with style. You've got to serve and serve first, and then you have to make that conscious decision to leave.
Oh, if you have any problems, dial information. Thank you for calling.
Hey, well, welcome. I'm telling you, so we're going to dive in because I was sitting here. I did some research. I was looking at this. We're getting into the last part on this series of creating and engaging high performance teams, and we're using the acronym by Matt, macronym Ascend. And in Ascend, we speak of, being adaptive and strategic communication and cohesion, collaboration, empowerment, engagement. We talked about nurturing talent last week. So here we are, episode 9, and we are on this last piece, the D, which is developmental feedback. And so I did a bunch of, and here's what you got to understand as we're kind of going through this. There's so many of these other pieces that are going to tie into this. And so if you've listened to any of this season, and while I've got you here right now, if you listen to any of this season, then you know that we've talked about a lot of different things. I am going to tell you right now, this is a major piece that people avoid, ignore, forget, try to stay away from, whatever the reason is. We are terrified of developmental feedback in any way, shape, or form. And as leaders, because we're never trained or taught or explained what truly developmental feedback is. So I'm going to talk about developmental feedback, absolutely. But man, I got to tell you, as I'm researching this and I'm watching videos and I'm looking through books, Maxwell and, how to deliver your message and strategies and tools for when everyone leads, and the Leadership Challenge by Kouzes and Posner, ethical leadership, all these different things, watching these videos, Simon Sinek, Harvard Business Review, YouTube, TED Talks. I'm spending some time going through this research, and I'm not doing that to pat on my back, but I'm telling you, there's some crap. No wonder it is so confusing. So I'm looking at this, and it's like, hey, are you, even Google or Bing or whoever you're using is going to be like, hey, here's some results for honest feedback or for developmental feedback. Also see, and then it gives you brutal feedback, and all of these different terms, and then a lot of videos on how successful leaders give honest feedback. And I was listening to one on Harvard Business Review by this guy named Grote, and it's an interesting story. And actually, I may play you part of it. And so I'm going to set this up a little bit. He's talking about that as a 22-year-old, that he gets this performance review, and it is brutal. And so he's working for GE. He's an engineer, and, and apparently this was a hot minute ago. This was a while back. They only had 4, standard, above standard, outstanding, and below standard. Those are your 4 performance reviews. And everything on his was either standard or below standard. And even in one section, whoever did this performance appraisal, for this guy, Dick Grote, was just brutal. There were boxes just filled in with every flaw, fallacy, ish. Now, and I didn't see, he kind of shows it for a minute on this video. 100%. Go check it out. It's interesting. I'm going to play you a piece of it here in a second. But he kind of talked about how brutal it was. And he's talking about at the bottom is like, would you hire this person? And the guy marked no. And so this is kind of, I'm going to play you from there. Cause I mean, listening to it, it's brutal. And I'm like, well, that's not the kind of development feedback I want to talk about, but there was a key point in this that I think he talks about and I want to share. Here you go.
A hole and pulling it in over me was what Ray wrote in the very last section called Any Other Pertinent Comments. In that section, Ray wrote this: until he came with us, I am certain he knew of no problems, since no one appeared to have discussed any with him. That was true. Nobody had told this young kid that I was then that he wasn't doing a very good job. And I wasn't. And Ray had the courage to tell me that. And as a result of Ray's courage, getting that feedback straight between the eyes that I wasn't performing well, immediately I got to work. And I ended up having a wonderful career.
Okay, so like I said, now I believe, now I am probably one that is a little bit of a challenge, personally, because I can be pretty brutal myself when I'm giving feedback. I believe in giving honest feedback. I like to give honest feedback. Simon Sinek has some things on giving critical feedback that I think is interesting, and it's literally called giving critical feedback. And you can tell he's kind of young. He's kind of, it sounds like it's in a little Q&A session, and it's only about 2 minutes. So, I always tell you guys, I am not, like, I believe in leadership by example. I believe in servant leadership. And so I struggle with, I've been doing leadership almost at every level. Let me just say, it's not pretty much or almost. It is at every level, from being a CEO of my own organization to being a senior and executive in other organizations to being a junior employee manager on the front line that had no clue to being a young infantry I've been in several different pieces of leadership, and I'm never going to say that I've got it right because I'm still learning. I'm still growing. So my challenge is always when I hear people who speak of it that I don't feel like I've actually been out there doing it. And so a lot of these speakers have great motivational ideas, but the question is it real world applicable? And in some cases it is. Absolutely. In some cases it is. Anyway, I say all that to caveat that let me just share with you what this Sinek video, it's about 2 minutes.
So one of the things that we do is creating a culture in which people understand that the reason we're giving feedback is not to quote unquote criticize them, but to help them grow as human beings.
Now I'm going to stop there. 15 seconds in. I mean, we can listen to the whole thing. That's what I feel like is going to be a critical part right there. So one, that culture where that feedback isn't about criticizing, it's about helping them succeed. So foundational right there, very critical, 100% agree. Go.
And that has to be established. Like this is what the advice I offer is it's not just a checklist that you do and everything goes fine. You create a culture in which difficult conversations and critical feedback are welcomed or at least understood. But it's also how we give it. Usually we give it by pulling out a piece of paper.
Okay, I'm going to stop again. Okay. I'm going to agree with him here too as well. We're at 36 seconds. We're still on the same page. Me and Mr. Sinek, I think it's said that way, Sinek. 100% creating that culture. It's not just about a checklist. It's not just about a corrective action or disciplinary warning or performance review. It's not about checking boxes and filling in things. That is one of the things that I will tell you that I am a firm believer the military got wrong, that they use these performance reviews. Now, I was a 4.6 Marine, meaning that I was outstanding in all my proficiency and conduct reports. But I felt like it was click in the box, check the box, fill in some information. I mean, there are websites out there that they could pull off, Marine is outstanding leadership traits of blah, blah, blah. And you just copy and pasting. And that's what I felt like people were doing. So 100% agree. It made no difference to me to hear those proficiency conduct reports. It did not help me whatsoever. It's not about checking a box. It's about having a real relationship and understanding and addressing those things. So I'm going to keep going. Like I said, it's got another about minute 25. We're going to start going squirrely, in my opinion, but we're going.
And pointing out the thing that's wrong. And saying you got to fix something, right? We usually point to the evidence first, as opposed to starting by the human being, which is, there's stuff I want to share with you. I don't know what it means, but I wanted to raise it with you in case there is an issue, because I care about you and I want to see that you grow here. But there's some evidence that things are going a little sideways, and I want to address them with them to see what opportunities there are, or if there's anything wrong, because I don't know the reasons behind it. But here's, for example, the way you talked to your teammates the other day was a little harsh. And ordinarily, I'd be one to say, "Oh, you're having a bad day. It's no problem. Everybody gets a bad day." But you've been really beating up on people.
Okay, here's, like I said, we're gonna go squirrely, a little sideways, because we talk a lot about clear and direct communication, and that was a lot of well, and I think, and maybes, and I don't agree with that. 100% do not agree with that, because I think a leader has to take charge. I think that if you give that wiggle space, you are going to really open up some opportunities for them to validate their behaviors, or for them to try to validate in their own mind. It can go sideways on you. So I'm a firm believer it needs to be direct, straightforward. But like I said, we're going to get into my stuff. We still have about 35 seconds here, so let's listen to the rest of his so that you guys have that.
I don't even know if you were aware of that, right? And sometimes they'll say, "I'm having a hard time," and it opens up. Or they'll say, "I wasn't even aware. I didn't even know." Or it reveals something, as opposed to saying, "Stop yelling at people. Nobody wants to work for you if all you do is yell at people." It's hard for people to receive. And so good feedback is not just about conveying the point we're trying to make. It's about creating a condition in which the person is more likely to listen and hear it. So we're all proud of ourselves once we've told them. Did you give her the feedback? Yeah, I told her. Right? Did they hear the feedback? Different question.
Okay, so like I said, that was one that I thought there were some really good pieces in it, just in my opinion. And luckily for me, I have the microphone, so you get to hear my opinion. There were some really good things, creating the culture. It's not about checking boxes. And yes, it is 100%. We've got to have a critical conversation that they need to be able to hear. And so we've got to diffuse it and not make it's not confrontational. We're not here to battle it out with them. So we want to make sure that we're having a really good, strong conversation with them, a direct conversation, a clear conversation, but it's not about, we're not confronting them. And so there were some things in there, the hemming and hawing and the maybes. And I have never seen that be successful in my tenure in leadership and in anybody that I have served with. What I have seen that do is give a lot of mixed signals. And even those that do not like very direct feedback have told me when I've tried to be, because I feel like that's soft, kind of trying to soften it. And they have been like, "Hey, you need to just let it be what it is." Like, I feel like you're telling me things I need to work on, and then you're backing out of it. And so, I'd love to hear if you've got an experience and you want to tell me. I thought that you guys would want to, there's a couple of good ones. Like I said, if you Google it up, developmental feedback, honest feedback, leadership feedback, it's going to give you a cajillion hits. And so, check out some of those videos. There's some really interesting things. Like I said, there's going to be almost it's almost like we're going to wrap everything up that we've been talking about all throughout the last 8 episodes into this 9th episode. And so we'll have some touch on it next week. But we're not going to dive real deep into wrap up, because that's going to come in here a lot. So, but I'm not done with the season. So we're not going to just have like a 10 episode season. We're just going to keep going until I feel like it's time for us to enjoy you guys to have a brief break. What I've really been excited about is as I'm looking, the cool thing is that when you have podcasts and the dashboards and all the different things, you get to see a lot of cool stuff. So Apple was our top, and I say we because it is us. We're doing this together. Y'all, it's going really, really well. But here's what's cool is that I see a lot of different people listening to different things. They're not just kind of following the episodes. They're finding the things that are key critical for them. That is really a form of developmental feedback because they see, I think just literally today, as I'm recording this, I'm looking at this and somebody's listening to Being an Agent of Change, which was an episode from, a year and a half, 2 years ago. Another one's listening to Overcoming Attitude Obstacles. Another one listening to Legacy. So I'm really excited that after 45 episodes, whatever we're at, that we've got episodes out there that people are getting things from no matter when the episode was. So if you've got something you want to hear, let's bring it into the rest of this season. You can shoot me contact on social media through Spotify or LinkedIn or Facebook, Instagram. Any of those places, you can shoot me and say, hey, I'd love to hear about this. Or, hey, I didn't understand what the hell you're saying here. Give me that. We are still at well over 1,000 listens at this point. And our followers, God bless you guys, have gone up 35%. So we have jumped literally a third in our listeners just over the last week or so. So it's been super, super great. And I am so excited because you guys are helping me to achieve a goal, and I really appreciate it. Guam came back, and so we got people in Guam who are listening. We are now one of the top 100 in Guam, and I know it's like how many leadership and developmental podcasts are there out there, and there are a lot. And so we've reached the top 100 in Guam and Romania. But the funny thing is that Germany, we're just outside of it, and Germany is one of our top 3 markets. So I want to give shout outs to U.S. still being top market, Oklahoma and Virginia and Washington and Texas and you people all over. And it's so cool. We have an equal mix, male, female, and people who don't want to say we have a pretty equal mix of Apple now, web, and Spotify, and Cast. So it's really cool because it's all over the map. Everybody, we are spreading information to everybody, all walks of life, all nationalities, all religions, all sexes, all ethnicities. This is really, really cool. It's really empowering. And I know I'm right in the middle. Usually I kind of jump this in the beginning, but I want to say this. If you're one of those people in New Zealand, in Auckland or Hawke's Bay listening, I want to come there and speak. Like, I need you to reach out to me. I may give you a serious discount, something, anything that I can get, or just call me. Let me hear some New Zealand voices, because that's cool. Like, I am super, super stoked that we have some New Zealanders. Let's get some Australians up in this mix. That would be cool as well. So anyway, so that's enough about our growth. Don't forget, smash the subscribe, the follow, all of that good stuff. Join us and be notified when our episodes drop. Every Wednesday night or Thursday morning, we're dropping a new episode. I say we, it's not the royal we. 100% could not do this without an audience, without the other leaders that I work with, without my family. And so it is not a royal we. This show, even though it's just me screaming into the void, this show 100% could not happen without everybody's involvement. y'all listening, following me, telling others about me, reaching out to me. Gotten some really cool emails from especially people in my area. Gotten to go speak at some cool conferences and some cool seminars. Got to speak on Zoom or video chat with several different companies. So I've really just enjoyed, and I almost want to do just a deal where you guys can send me like some cool snacks or your favorite treat from wherever you are in the world, because I think that would be really cool to try those with you guys. Anyway, but there's a lot of people that are doing that on YouTube. It always looked cool to kind of try that out. Let's jump in and let's talk about developmental feedback. Because as I told you, there's a lot more unpacking in this than even I think these speakers and these scholars do. And so we're going to kind of tie a lot of it. And when we're talking about this whole series on creating high performance teams, and we're using that ascend leadership model, that philosophy, this is a critical component. It's not... It is fortuitous that we were able to use a macronym that was talking about rising up and ascend, because that's what we want to do. We want to raise our people up to high performance and to new heights and new opportunities. But it also was perfect that the acronym fell with that last letter D, talking about this critical component, because this is a huge part. We talked about nurturing talent. Well, when you're talking about just bringing in the talent or growing the talent, it requires good developmental feedback. If you think of leadership as a garden and you're the gardener, well, whatever plants you put down, you've got to water. Every employee or person that you serve or team member that you serve is a plant in that garden, and it requires water. Well, feedback is that water. Feedback is the water that nurtures growth. And so it is a continuous process. It is sometimes uncomfortable. It sometimes sucks. And it's sometimes very rewarding. It's all of those. You can't just have one part of it, which is kind of what we would like to do. But feedback, this developmental feedback, is that continuous process. It's guiding your individuals. It's guiding your team towards improvement and towards excellence and towards high performance. It's not just about pointing out their mistakes. It's not just about pointing out the issues and the errors, but it's about fostering growth. It's about enhancing skills and driving motivation. It's a development tool that aligns with our strategic communication. And so first off, it requires that we provide that clear and direct communication, because as we talked about in strategic communication, when we give that clear and direct communication, we're building trust and alignment within our teams. When we openly communicate about our organization, the decisions, the expectations, then we're getting rid of misunderstandings. And so when we're talking about here's where our vision, our goals, and our expectations, our standards are, then we are clearly giving them here's what we want to see happen. And so they expect developmental feedback based on that. And developmental feedback, don't get me wrong, I'm going to give you a big picture of it. Developmental feedback isn't just about giving them, you need to fix this. You need to fix that. It's not about disciplinary actions or corrections or anything. It is also has to be about that direct praise. And so you've got to have clear communication so that they know the standards, they know the expectations, and that they're clearly spelled out to them. But you also have to give them a supportive environment for risk taking. And so when you hear in my intro, if you're going to screw it up with style. That means that we need to give an environment where calculated risks are encouraged and thriving. It is our responsibility to create that culture that embraces smart risk taking, that embraces that innovation that we talked about at the beginning in episode 2. Innovation drives competitive advantages. It encourages our people to be more invested and involved. So when we give clear guidelines and we celebrate both the successes and the failures with accountability, we're creating that environment where people feel empowered. They want to take calculated risks. And this is a fundamental and important part. And when we talk, again, this ties so much together. I can go back to empowerment when we're talking about this. I can go back to that risk taking and what's a good risk, what's a smart risk, what's a calculated risk. You can overthink the ever-loving crap out of it, but there's no point in that. You've got to look at this and say, hey, if I don't give clear direction, if we don't have a clear vision and goals, clear values that we're following, if I don't give them the opportunity to innovate, and innovate meaning how do we give that great smart risk taking? Well, we give them the information, we give them the tools, and we give them the power to make decisions. And then we let them go. And we support and give them the additional tools and whatever we need. And if they fall flat, we pick them up and we say, let's talk about what went wrong that we can fix for next time. And so we spend so much time worrying about, I don't want to lose them. I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to. That's ridiculous. They need to know when they make mistakes. Nobody's going to just magically know when they screwed up. The hardest person that you serve, the person that's hardest on them is themselves. And so when you're talking about, if you think about it, the hardest person that you have is you. And so nobody's going to be harder on you than you. So if I'm your leader and I'm serving you, and I know that, you failed. I know you failed. And so you're waiting for the hammer to drop. And I come to you and I go, hey, Johnny, let's talk about what happened with it. And you say, I know it was terrible. It absolutely failed. It sucked. I thought it was going to go differently. It didn't go that way at all. And so me as a leader, Johnny, it did not work. No. Here was the standard. Here's what we needed. Here was the expectation. It did not meet those. What could we do differently that would make it do that? Because we figured out how not to do it. So we've narrowed down our possibilities. So now let's look at it and say, where can we? So I'm still holding that accountability. I'm giving encouragement for that smart risk taking, for innovation and ideas, but I'm not beating them over the head. And so you've got to understand there's a total difference, and a lot of it becomes action and intent equals will. Meaning your beliefs, how you act says more than your intent. You hear the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but you've got to have the actions to back that up. And so if I say, don't worry about it, that means nothing to you. But if we talk it out and I let it be what it is, it was a failure. It did not work. This was what it should have done. We spent $10,000 trying to make that happen. We only got $5,000 out of it, so we lost $5,000. What could we do that just a little bit differently that is going to make that effective? What can we do? Because it was a good seed, it's a great idea, or it's a crazy idea. Let's tweak it. What are we going to do differently that is going to turn us around? And maybe we invest another $10,000 into it, and this time we get 25. Well, that means that we invested a total of 20, and we made 30. That's a third increase. That's pretty daggum good. But we never get there. We could just take a $5,000 loss and tell them that they're stupid and move on down the road. It's terrible. So we've got to understand developmental feedback isn't about beating them up. It's about giving them true feedback. It's about letting it be. You're not addressing the person. If you're addressing the person in a developmental feedback session or setting, then you're missing the boat, because it's not them that's the issue. It's a behavior, an action, or an inaction. Either they didn't do something, they did do something that wasn't right, or a behavior that they were doing was wrong. So you go back to Sinek in that video, and he's like, hey, you're, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but I'm seeing it, and the hemming and hawing, and I'm just going to move on past that. But he said, you're out there, you're being very negative to your team, or you're yelling at your people, and nobody wants to work for you because you're yelling at them. Well, I think we need to just let it be what it is. I'm just talking to your employees. Your employees are dissatisfied. They feel like you don't lead by example. They feel like that you raise your voice at them, that you're very angry, that you're expect them to do as you say and not as you do, that you are leading by coercion. And so here's what we can do to adjust that, and tell me what your intent and thoughts are so that we can match actions to fix that, because the actions you're taking are giving a wrong signal. And it's, and you can avoid the yous and I's and me's and we's, but it is what it is. You just kind of put it straight forward. But it's the same thing when we're talking about recognition for giving the positive things. It makes no difference if somebody does something great and you just go, hey, good job. That does nothing. That is not developmental feedback. Developmental feedback, 32 minutes in. Here I'm just going to give you a very simplified way of thinking of it. Developmental feedback is one of two things. Either we are specifically encouraging and praising the behaviors, actions, or inactions that we want, or we are addressing specific behaviors, actions, or inactions that we don't. It's not the person. It's the behavior, action, or inaction that we're addressing. And so when we're doing those good, when somebody does a great job, it's, hey, Jane, what I really appreciated is the fact that you sat down with that customer. They were so confused and frustrated. They came in just really miserable. They were ready to leave us. And you just sat down with them and you figured out exactly what the challenge was. You showed them where we made a mistake and how we could fix it. And you gave them the opportunity to make the best decision for them. And you didn't pressure, and you made them feel really empowered and showed them the benefits of continuing. You made a customer for life out of that person. That was incredible. And so by giving that personalized, meaningful recognition, then all of a sudden it's a whole different ballgame for Jane. Even so, the Society for Human Resources Management, they said in a recent survey, 72% of employees state that personalized recognition motivates them to do their best. So you want to tailor that recognition to individual preferences, achievements, and the positive behaviors that you're really looking for. Remember, recognition isn't just about accolades. It's a catalyst for excellence. And so it's not about, we're talking about Pavlov's dogs and, psychology and this, that, and that. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that if somebody does something good and you specifically tell them that was good, I really appreciated that, then they feel valued, they feel important, and they want to do that more because they understand that they're doing something as part of something bigger, that they're contributing. And you've let them know that they're contributing. It's not that we're trying to mentally manipulate them. How about we're just doing the right thing? We want to be a catalyst for excellence. And so recognition isn't just that accolade, it's that catalyst. And so we've got to be able to provide not just the developmental feedback for correcting behaviors, but we want to provide that for the encouraging of the current behaviors. And we separate those a lot. I've even heard when I started in management, they started using a thing they called the Oreo. And the Oreo method was you sandwich that negative or that behavior you need correct between two positives. So it would be like, hey, Johnny, you did a great job of, getting in this morning and getting set up, and you were ready to go before anybody. That was awesome. However, I noticed that you were not wearing pants today. I'm going to need you to fix that. But I know that you're going to have the best pants that there are when you come back and look sharp. I mean, yeah, that was a super ridiculous. I know nobody likes to wear pants at work, so it doesn't matter. But it's super ridiculous idea, because you're sandwiching. Here's what I need you to. Here's the behavior or the action or inaction we need to fix. Let's talk about it. Let's just put it out there. Figure it out together, because I'm not here to beat you up. I'm here to help you find a solution or to figure it out together. And that's why the first guy that I had you guys listen to, I totally blanked on it, Grudo. I think it's Grudo. You can go back if you need to. But that's why I really liked what he said, was that this person, while they just absolutely were brutal, at the end, they said it very succinctly. I think these behaviors are because they came in and nobody had ever told them that it was wrong. And so they can't fix it if they don't know that it's wrong. And so when you get an employee or person that you're working with or serving with that comes in and they have some terrible habits, it's because either they've been told wrong or they've never been told at all. And so you have got to make sure that you're giving both sides of the coin. It's not just the corrective feedback, but it's also that personalized and meaningful feedback, the recognition. It takes both sides of the coin, and you have to do both, but you also have to do that consistently and continuously. This is guiding. It's steering the wheel. If I point somebody in a direction and say, hey, if you really want to grow and become a leader, what I need you to do is I need you to learn servant leadership. And then I walk away and forget it. And a month later, I meet with them again. And I go, hey, what did you learn about servant leadership? And they're like, I don't know. It's a word out there. And there's a lot of different books and articles, and half of them butcher it so that they can, claim it as their own idea or whatever the case may be. It is true, though. Anyway, so you've got to make sure that you're doing regular, consistent feedback. Offer opportunities for growth and skill enhancement. Look for things that are going to tie them to the organization, to the goals, to the organization's values, because, again, that's employee engagement. And so we want to guide them. So if I said, hey, I really feel like if you want to be a great leader, you really want to learn a lot more about servant leadership, then I'm going to give material. And then I may follow up with them, or her the next day or a week later. Hey, have you gotten through that material? Tell me what stuck out in your mind. And we may just have a conversation with it. Is that feedback? Yes, because it's follow-up. It's follow-up to a feedback that I gave you, and that feedback, you could call that, recognition, or you can call it developmental, whatever you want to call it, coaching, mentoring, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be a rant time.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Around the track. Around the track. One lap. One lap.
All right, rant time real quick. Quit getting hung up on the axle about words. Words have different meanings, and different words have a lot of different meanings. Leadership has like 28 different definitions out there. Success, dozens of definitions out there, and you may have your very own definition. And I say that because we get wrapped around, well, I do coaching. Well, what is coaching to you? Well, coaching to me is when I sit down with my performance evaluation once a quarter and I show them how they're doing. Okay, that's not what coaching is to me. What's mentoring? Mentoring is when we sit down and we just talk about them. And we have different definitions. But all in all, let's just agree on one thing. One definition overall is called feedback. Whether that's we're coaching them, whether that's we're mentoring them, whether that's we're giving them specific, meaningful, and personalized praise, or whether we're giving them developmental counseling, or whether we're giving whatever it is, we're giving feedback, and it has to be continuous. It has to be consistent. That continuous feedback loop makes sure that your team members are always aware of where they are. They know what their progress is. They know what they need to continue to work on and focus. Consistency and feedback is going to give you a culture of relentless improvement. And we talk about a growth mindset. There it is. That's it right there, because we're constantly putting them in a relentless improvement focus. It's constantly thinking to ourselves, how can I get better? Because I don't know about you, but as a leader, I have been in many places where I've been like, what do I need to do to get better? Like I know I'm not hitting my targets or my marks, or I'm close, or I did it, but I don't know how I did it. And why is it? Is because I'm not getting consistent feedback. And we may do great about giving consistent praise, but we forget that even our high performance people right now, they need feedback, developmental feedback as well. What can I do to get better? So again, consistency in your feedback is going to foster that culture of relentless improvement, that growth mindset. And so when you're talking about effective feedback, this is truly just an extension of strategic communication. Clear, transparent, direct. We're addressing specific behaviors, actions, inactions. We're not addressing personal attributes. We're not addressing them as an individual or as a person. We're being clear, transparent, direct about behaviors or actions or inactions. This is going to continue to build trust, ensure feedback is constructive and actionable. And so we have to do a few things when we're talking about strategic communication and effective feedback. We've got to establish those clear goals. We've got to encourage that open communication. And I'm going to tell you, body language, location, all of this makes a difference. When I'm having feedback with people, and I'm telling you, there's some feedback that hurts my heart. I just recently had one that just, it ripped me up inside because it was not, I just really love the idea of having a great culture. And the thing is, I'm not going to have a great culture for everybody. Impossible. But I take every failure of that to heart and look at it and think, what could I do differently? Yeah, I accept it as a failure, and failure is good and it helps me grow. But man, it sucks. But here's the thing is, I wouldn't have gotten that feedback if I didn't have an open opportunity. So when I sit down with people in any kind of feedback, it is almost 100% me sitting beside them in a chair. I'm not sitting across a desk from them. If we're in a significant constructive developmental, if we're in some disciplinary actions at that point, sure. There's a time and a place when you have to be a little more formal, but to encourage that good open communication, we want to create channels for them where that dialogue, it's that two-way street, that they can share their perspectives, their concerns, and you can help share the issues and the challenges, the behaviors or the actions or the inactions that you thought were either good or that we need to work on. But that gives that open communication. You've got to offer them opportunity for growth. You've got to provide training, mentorship, development, coaching, whatever you want to call it, but you've got to have some programs in place. You've got to align those with the feedback that they're given to continually improve. So, for example, if I have somebody who maybe they just are struggling with the way that they're engaging with some customers, then I'm going to put them through some different customer training programs. I may get them working with some people who are really great with that to help find where we're having the disconnect, because it's definitely not in the intent. They're really great people. We're just missing some things. So we've got to make sure it aligns with the feedback. There's no sense in going, hey, look, we really need you to work on the way that you're engaging with your employees. So what we're going to do is we're going to send you to a compliance school. Or we have a great training class on how to make widgets. And so investing in their development is going to enhance skills, but it's going to boost engagement and loyalty. They're going to see that it's not just about you wanting them to fix it. You're giving them the tools to fix it. And of course, you want to recognize and reward. Again, celebrate the achievements, recognize contributions, reinforce that positive behavior, motivate your team, and then provide them resources and support. And look for opportunities. We want to make sure that we're not just giving developmental feedback through strategic communication, but we want to enhance developmental feedback through that same thing, incorporating that empathetic listening. Because when we're listening to understand and we're listening to be curious and we're practicing active listening skills, then we can address the emotional and professional needs of our team. When we're seeing the challenges and we're helping show them as opportunities for growth, we're promoting a growth mindset. But even more so, there are so many tools nowadays. You need to make sure you're utilizing tools for your feedback. Look for surveys, and there's so many different things out there that you want to do. So we want to use that strategic communication to get even enhance our developmental feedback. So let me just kind of I know I'm actually doing well, and I had a couple of videos, so I'm feeling pretty good about this. Consistent, strong, regular, and I say strong, I mean strong as in it needs to be real, and you need to really bring that to them. It doesn't need to be, hey, this one incident or this one case. I mean, we still want to have those conversations, but those should be a coaching and opportunity. I'll give you an example again. So, employee comes in late. We want to have a conversation with them because the standard doesn't change, right? Empathy means that the standard doesn't change. Sympathy changes the standard. So I'm going to address it with them, and I'm going to have that conversation. Hey, Johnny, I noticed that you were 10 minutes late this morning. Remember that we require that you be on time, dressed and ready to clock in at your scheduled time. Is everything okay? And Johnny may have a bunch of things going on, and so he shares that with me. Well, I still maintained my standard. I still gave them that developmental feedback, but now I have made it empathetic, and they feel valued and heard. And so if Johnny comes in late the next week, Johnny, last week you came in and you were 10 minutes late. I talked to you about that on Monday. Here we are Monday again, and you're 15 minutes late. At this time, I need to make sure that you're aware of our policies and that you're aware of the importance. You know, if you're not here on time, the rest of the team can't come in because it's security, it's safety. Our customers are waiting, and so then they're not getting the service that they deserve, that we promised them as a team when we started this. And so this pattern of behavior is becoming something that is causing challenges for our team and for our customers. So what I'm going to need from you is, one, I'm going to need you to give me a commitment that you are going to follow our policy and procedure. You're going to be here on time, dressed and ready. You're going to be ready for work with your dress, your attitude, and your abilities, and give us the all so that we don't have to go further down the line and start doing disciplinary actions. Can you give me that commitment today, Johnny? John says sure, because they're never going to say no. And so Johnny says sure. I give him a document. He signs it saying that he said that. I sign it. We send it into HR. We move on down the road. But I'm being consistent. Now, here's the issue. When we're not consistent, Johnny comes in 10 minutes late. My dog ran away. You're a dog owner, and you're like, oh, that happens to me sometimes. Or maybe you're a parent of a toddler. Toddlers have this unique ability that you get them ready and get them dressed, and then you go grab your stuff real quick, and you come back, and they are either fully undressed or their shoes are gone. Something is missing that you just had them set up with. And so maybe Johnny comes in, so it was 10 minutes late, and says, "What? My toddler made their shoes vanish. And so I found them behind the FICA plant." Whatever the case may be. And so you're like, I totally get it. That's happened before. Look, it's happened to me. Make sure that doesn't happen again, okay? And then he comes in the next week, 10, 15 minutes late, and he's like, the toddler. And you're like, my toddler too totally sucks. But then Jane comes in Tuesday, 10 minutes late, and you go, Jane, why are you late? Okay, let me remind you of, we're not being consistent. It's Jekyll and Hyde. Jane's pissed because you're treating her differently. Johnny's getting all this benefit treatment because we're changing the standard by being sympathetic. We have got to be fair and consistent in our feedback. We have got to be fair and consistent. We give clear standards. We give clear goals, clear accountability, and then we uphold that fairly. This creates a culture of respect and trust. Everybody's held to the same standard. This gets rid of, it reduces perceptions of favoritism, promotes a sense of fairness. Everybody's aligned in goals and values, and everybody has a quest to go get it. And so everybody knows when you're addressing them equally on every aspect of what's going on. Now, empathy says that I'm going to understand. My toddler, shoes vanished. Geez. Johnny, I have toddlers. I totally get it. They freak me out. I don't know where the shoes go. I understand that's going to happen on occasion. However, you have to understand that we also have to address it when it does happen. The standard is that you are here on time, dressed and ready when your scheduled shift begins, ready to clock in. Today you were 10 minutes late, and so we're going to just have a conversation about that. But let's try to be a little advanced. Maybe next time, give yourself an extra 10-minute buffer in case your toddler throws their shoes into the pool or something, and you never know what's going to happen. And so I've addressed it. I've been empathetic. I've maintained my standard. And so when Jane comes in late the next day and I address her, everybody feels fair, equally treated. They know the standard, but they also know that you're going to hold accountability to that standard. And so fair and consistent feedback ensures that you have good respect for you as a leader, because teams and people you serve, they respect leaders who are transparent and consistent in their feedback. That transparency, that respect translates into more trust and more loyalty. They feel like you're taking them someplace. They trust what you're saying and what you're doing because they know that you have a standard and that you hold accountability. Secondly, it increases your team cohesion because when everybody's treated fairly, team cohesion improves. Members feel valued and understood, which strengthens their commitment to the team, but they also feel like everybody is treated fairly and accounted for. And so individual accountability, third, is a huge impact of fair and consistent. Individual accountability means that you're giving clear and consistent feedback to help individuals understand what the expectations and standards are. And accountability drives performance, aligns individual efforts. Accountability is such a useful tool that we're afraid to touch. And so when we talk about developmental feedback, I go back to, it's a bow of everything that we've talked about, especially strategic communication. I know it came in there a lot. Continuous and consistency, personalized, meaningful recognition, an environment that is supportive for open communication, an environment that people can have risk-taking. There's so many to it. So much to this that ties into so much others, but I can guarantee you this is a driver in getting your team to move forward. And so when we talk about servant leadership, think about it. Servant leadership is about lighting the path for others to shine on. So we want to light the path for others to sign. Developmental feedback, however, is the cornerstone of that path. It's the starting point. It's the brick. It's the foundation. It's the mortar. It's however you want to do it, however you want to say it. Servant leadership lights the path for others to shine. Developmental feedback gives them the stone to stand on. That developmental feedback integrates closely with strategic communication by promoting clear, transparent, direct interactions. We foster an environment that supports risk-taking. We provide personalized recognition. We ensure continuous feedback, and we empower our team through that to achieve their full potential. We need to have developmental feedback that's constructive, actionable, and aligned with our strategic goals. There's zero sense in having developmental feedback on something that means nothing. If you are having developmental feedback on how the boxes are arranged in the storage room, and that's not part of your strategic goal, that's not part of your vision, that's not part of your values, that's not part of your mission, but man, you like those boxes stacked in a certain way, you are absolutely wasting your flipping time. Pick your battles. Make sure your battles align to your strategic goal. Make sure your praise and your positive lines with your strategic goals. Make sure that your body language and your attitudes and your actions align with your strategic goals. By doing this, we not only are nurturing the talents of our team, but we're driving the organization, we're driving our team towards a sustained success. Because given that consistent and fair feedback, we're creating a culture with respect, with perseverance. We're ensuring that teams are motivated, that they're aligned, they're ready to achieve greatness, that they have respect for each other. They feel like everybody is treated fairly and they're being driven forward. Every moment of recognition, whether that recognition is developmental, whether it's coaching, whether it's mentoring, every moment of recognition is a building block of greater achievements. Take the opportunity to create your own path of greater achievements by laying down good developmental feedback, positive, negative, in between. It's not about them. We're addressing a behavior, an action, or inaction, either reinforcing it or we're correcting it as long as it aligns with our strategic goals. Look at that. We get to 57 minutes in, and I could have just said that at the beginning, and then we could have just BS'd for the entire hour. However, I think that there's just so much here that we really want to unpack. We really want to make an important part of what we're doing. Developmental feedback is something that we are absolutely afraid of. And I couldn't tell you why. All of us. I've been told myself, don't candy coat, this isn't Candy Crush. I need you to just give it to me. Like, I don't need an Oreo sandwich. I need you to tell me what you're talking about. What do I need to fix? Because people don't know what they don't know. If they've never been told that they do something or that they don't do something or that they have a certain behavior, whatever the case may be, and that they need to correct that to be a productive, performing, growing, developing part of the team, if they don't know, then they're never going to do it. One of the biggest things that kills me, and it still happens, no matter how many times I scream about this, I guarantee you it happens to you if you have employees that work for you. At some point, when you have to let somebody go, when you free up their future, or maybe somebody else, maybe HR comes in and lets them go or whatever, and they say, I never saw it coming. Just last week, Johnny told me I was doing great. That's because we never gave them true feedback. And yet, then we get frustrated, we want them to be gone. We never give them the chance to be here. We have got to water that plant of leadership. Paving stones, plants, foundations, however you want to call it. If you aren't willing to give 360-degree feedback, the positive, personalized, meaningful, contextual feedback, the the direct focused feedback, the corrective feedback, the enhancing feedback. All of that's developmental feedback. And then following up with it and giving them the resources and giving them the tools and being clear and direct in what your expectations are in the first place so that they know. I mean, when you tell them that, they know it's coming. When you do that, you have the ultimate foundation for a great, successful, high impact, high performance team of true servant leadership. So I'm gonna leave it in this. When I went through this whole ascend, I went through a lot of things. Adaptability, innovation, both critically important, very important. Strategic communication, that's one of the top two, period. Cohesion and collaboration, those are important. Empower and engage, understanding those, very, very important. Nurturing talent, very important. But if it's anything, you see developmental feedback and strategic communication tie hand in hand, side by side. And if you can focus on those two, you are going to make huge impact in all 6 areas, 6+, because we had a couple with double letters in them or double words in them. So join me, come in back next time. And like I said, please reach out to me if there's something we can go back through. If maybe there's something in the Ascend or the overall for this season, maybe there's something in the last season or the season before that you want to hear more of, or maybe you have questions on, reach out to me, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. Shoot me an email, give me a call, whatever you got going on. I am excited to hear from you, to learn from you. Looking forward to next week as we just continue. Next week, do a little bit of wrap up. I'm going to go on some rants next week. I have some planned rants. And then we're going to get into some, bringing in some guests. So I'm really excited that we have 2 or 3 really cool guests that I'm really excited for. Authors, speakers, leaders. And so excited to bring those in as we continue on in season 4. Thanks for joining me. I'll talk to you next week.
And like that,